The Pinnacle shopping mall stood as a testament to wealth and privilege, its gleaming glass walls reflecting the bright afternoon sun. Inside, shoppers ambled leisurely, their designer clothing a sharp contrast to the struggles of the world outside. Among the crowd were the Rolands, a prominent white millionaire family whose presence commanded attention. Ethan Roland, a tall, imposing tech entrepreneur, led the way with his arm draped protectively over the shoulder of his elegant wife, Claire. Their baby, Lily, cooed softly in a high-tech stroller pushed by Ethan's younger brother, Marcus. Marcus, dressed sharply as always, trailed slightly behind. His expression betrayed envy and resentment that had festered for years. Living in Ethan's shadow had left Marcus feeling overlooked and unappreciated. As the family strolled through the rooftop floor of the mall, Marcus's gaze lingered on the edge where the railing abruptly ended. A twisted idea formed in his mind, his lips curling into a faint smile. Far below, amidst the bustle of the mall's lower levels, a 13-year-old black boy named Jalen navigated the crowd with practiced agility. Clad in a hand-me-down hoodie and worn-out sneakers, he seemed out of place in this pristine world. Security guards trailed him with suspicious glances, a treatment he had grown accustomed to as a black kid in predominantly white spaces. Jalen wasn't at the mall to shop. He couldn't afford it. Instead, the mall was a refuge from the suffocating life he endured at home, where his white stepfather, Rob, ruled with an iron fist and frequent cruelty. Jalen leaned against a third-floor railing, his sharp eyes catching a glimmer of movement above. Something wasn't right. He saw the Roland family laughing, unaware that Lily's stroller had begun to roll dangerously close to the edge. Jalen squinted. It wasn't an accident. A white mall worker had nudged the stroller deliberately. His heart pounded as he processed the scene. Without hesitation, he darted through the crowd, weaving past startled shoppers. His legs pumped faster than ever as he ascended the stairs two at a time. On the rooftop, Marcus feigned shock, barely suppressing a smirk as the stroller edged closer to disaster. But Jalen was faster. He burst onto the rooftop just as the stroller's front wheels dipped over the ledge. With a desperate yell, he lunged forward, his fingers locking around the metal frame. The force nearly pulled him over the edge. But with a final grunt, he hauled the stroller back to safety. Lily wailed as the rooftop fell silent. Claire screamed and rushed to embrace her baby, tears streaming down her face. "You saved her," she whispered, her voice trembling. Ethan, his face pale, crouched to meet Jalen's eyes. "What's your name, son?" he asked. "Jalen," he replied breathlessly, brushing dirt off his hoodie. Behind them, Marcus froze, his plan unraveling in an instant. His lips tightened as he stared at the boy who had ruined everything. Masking his fury, he adjusted his tie and composed himself just as mall security arrived. The head of security, a burly white man named Officer Mallory, barked, "What's going on here?" His eyes landed on Jalen, and his expression hardened. "Kid, step back." Claire stepped in front of Jalen protectively. "He saved our daughter," she snapped, her voice firm. The guard hesitated as murmurs rippled through the crowd. Jalen felt their stares, the familiar weight of suspicion even in his moment of heroism. Marcus saw his chance to shift the narrative. "We need to review the footage," he said smoothly, his tone measured but pointed. "It's not every day a stroller just rolls off a rooftop. Someone must be responsible." Jalen's eyes narrowed. "I saw someone push it," he said firmly. But when he scanned the crowd, the mall worker was gone. His stomach twisted as doubt crept in. Marcus smirked faintly. "Convenient," he said, loud enough for everyone to hear. "A mystery culprit just vanished?" Claire shot him a glare. "Stop. Jalen saved her. That's all that matters." But the seed of doubt was planted. The murmurs grew louder, and Jalen felt suspicion closing in like a shadow. Later, in the mall security office, Jalen sat on a hard plastic chair, his fists clenched. Officer Mallory loomed over him. "Let's go over this again. What exactly did you see?" "I told you," Jalen said, his voice steady. "The stroller didn't roll on its own. Someone pushed it." Mallory's eyes narrowed. "Conveniently," The footage from the rooftops cameras is missing. Technical glitch. They're saying. Jalen's chest tightened. He knew what that meant. Someone had tampered with the evidence. That's not my problem, he said. I didn't do anything wrong. Mallory's expression darkened. Keep your attitude in check. Let's not forget who you are and where you're from. The words hit Jalen like a punch. Who you are and where you're from. He'd heard it before, a reminder that as a black boy, the world would always see him as a problem waiting to happen. That night, back at his cramped apartment, Jalen stared at a business card Claire had slipped him. His stepfather, Rob, lounged on the couch with a beer in hand, his voice slurring as he demanded to know what Jalen had brought home. Before Jalen could respond, there was a knock at the door. Rob opened it to find 3 men in dark suits. Jalen, one of them said coldly, "We need to have a talk." Jalen's pulse raced. He recognized the threat in their eyes. These weren't men looking for answers. They were here to silence him. As the situation escalated, Jalen's survival instincts kicked in. Grabbing a ceramic ashtray, he hurled it at the nearest man and bolted out the back door. The chase led Jalen through the city's labyrinthine alleys, his heart pounding as he evaded his pursuers. Finally, he found refuge in an abandoned warehouse, where he collapsed against a cold concrete wall. His mind raced, replaying the events. Marcus had sent those men. He was sure of it. Jalen pulled out Claire's card, weighing his options. He couldn't trust the police, and staying silent wasn't an option. With trembling hands, he dialed the number. Claire answered immediately, her voice filled with concern. Jalen explained everything, and her shock turned to determination. "Come to the house," she said. "You'll be safe here." Arriving at the Roland's estate felt surreal. The mansion's opulence was overwhelming, but Jalen couldn't afford to be intimidated. Claire promised to help him expose Marcus, but they needed proof. Together, they devised a plan to search Marcus's office. Under the cover of night, Jalen crept through the mansion's east wing. Picking the lock to Marcus's office, he uncovered a leather-bound notebook filled with incriminating evidence, names, dates, and payments to mall staff and gang members. But before he could escape, Marcus appeared. What followed was a tense confrontation. Marcus lunged for Jalen, but the boy's quick reflexes allowed him to escape with the notebook. The chase spilled into the mansion's grand foyer, where Claire intercepted them. With police sirens wailing in the distance, Jalen handed the notebook to Claire. When the police arrived, Marcus's attempts to shift blame crumbled under Claire's testimony and the evidence in the notebook. He was taken into custody, but Jalen knew this wasn't the end. Men like Marcus didn't stay down for long. Weeks later, the city buzzed with the fallout of the scandal. News outlets exposed Marcus's crimes, and his powerful connections began to unravel. Yet, Jalen's life remained uncertain. Hiding in a safe house arranged by Claire, he watched the coverage, wondering if justice would truly prevail. "This isn't over," Jalen said, his resolve hardening. "People like Marcus will always find a way. But so will I." Claire placed a reassuring hand on his shoulder. "You've already done so much, but you don't have to fight alone." Jalen nodded, the weight of the battle ahead settling on him. His story was far from over. Armed with courage and the will to fight, he was ready to face whatever came next.